Right, let's talk about algebra. What is algebra? If you do the Google search, it says algebra is a branch of mathematics that helps in the representation of problems or situations in the form of mathematical expressions. So basically, we use mathematics in order to express English representation of problems or other situations. And it involves variables like X, Y, Z, and mathematical operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division to form a meaningful mathematical expression. Algebra, we use algebraic expressions, that is, using of variables and operations. So, the variable means it is a symbol or letters. Right. So, for example, we have number x with 3 added on. How do we express this English as mathematics? This would be x plus 3 using the algebra. Next example, 6 lots of the number n. How would we express this? 6 lots, so 6 times it by n. Another example, a number m divided by 5. And in using mathematics, we would write it as m over 5. Okay? If you are multiplying a letter by a number, the number is placed immediately in front of the letter. So, for example, g times by 4, we just write it as 4g. What about 5 times a? This is equal to 5a. You have noticed that we write the number first and then the letters follows. What about negative 2 times a times 3? First of all, you need to think about the sign. So we got one negative here, and there is no other negative. So we got odd number of negative. So the answer would be odd sign, and 2 times it by 3, that would be 6, and times by a, so it will be negative 6a. What about negative 3 times by a times it by negative 2 times it by b? So we got negative 3 times by a times it by negative 2 times it by b. So let's think about the sign first. We got one negative and we got another negative. So together that would be two negatives. So two negatives make positives. So the answer would be positive, but we don't need to write down the plus. So 3 times 2 is 6 again, and we got a times b, so we can just write 6ab. Another example, 4a times it by 5c. So sometimes it looks, 4a is together and then we multiply by 5c. So this is very similar to previous questions, but this time 4a comes together to start with. So we can multiply numbers together. So 4 times 5, that is 20, and letters follow. So 20ac. Okay? And this is same for similar questions like negative 3ac times it by negative 2b. Yeah. And We think about the sign first. We got one negative, we got another negative, so even number of negatives, this will turn to plus. So 3 times 2, that's the 6, and the letters A, C, B. Right. When we have the same letter, such as A times it by A times by A, this becomes A to the power of 3. So if you see this kind of power question, you need to think about the multiplication of the same letter, the power index form. So if we have questions like 4a times it by 3a, then this would be 4 times by 3, which is 12, and a times a, so it's going to be 12a squared. If you are dividing a letter by a number, they should be written as a fraction. So for example, d divided by 3. We write it as a fraction now, so it would be d over 3. And if we have 5 divided by n, we would write it as 5 over n. Okay? And if we have 5a squared divided by 2a, let's write it as a fraction first. So it's going to be 5a squared over 2a. And then before we just finished off, let's see whether we can simplify further. Number 5 over 2, which is 2.5, but you just leave this as a fraction. That's fine. But what about a squared and a? We can cancel this together. So I will cancel 1a at the bottom with 1a on the top. So we got a times a. So 1 of a will be cancelled out with the bottom one. So we will have only 1a left. So on the top, we have 5a left. At the bottom, the a has cancelled out, so we only have 2. So that's the answer for the dividing terms. And let's have a look at a little bit harder questions for division questions. So this time, I'm going to have 10a cubed and b squared over 25a squared and b to the power 4. Now, if I just write it in a long extended form, I can write it as 10 times a times a times a times b over 25 times a times a times, we got 4 of this b, right? So if we simplify numbers first, 10 and 25, they both divisible by 5. How many 5s are there? 2. How many 5s are in 25s? 5. And let's cancel letters. Here, A cancel with one of A at the bottom, and 1A on the top cancel with this one at the bottom, and there's no more A. This is B, right? So let's move on to the B part. So cancel 1B with another B at the bottom, and 1B on the top with another B. So as you can see, the number that's left on the top is 2. And which letters are left? We got A on the top, and then the number 5 left at the bottom here. And there are B times by B, so we have B squared like that. Instead of writing this expanded form, we can just simplify from the question. So here, we do the similar thing here. 10 and 25 are divisible by 5. How many 5 here? 2. How many 5 here? 5. And a cubed and a squared. And when we cancel each other, there will be 1a left on the top, but whereas a squared will be gone. And we got b squared here and b to the power of 4 here, which means b squared will be gone, but we will still have b times b, as you can see here. So we know we still have 2b, so we're gonna write it as 2 there. So again, as you can see, 2a is left on the top, whereas bottom it is 5 and b squared, which is same answer as this long working, isn't it? Okay. Thank you for watching. This is Maths and